Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Corner. Welcome to this Sunday's awesome session where we're sharing something, I would say deeper, but it's all relevant. It's very powerful. And we want to give you something very special that you can utilize right away. We make it part of our lives as well. And this is about achieving higher versions of yourself, attracting things that you want, and this is an amazing tool that we're going to share. And this is from the book Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. And I believe this is chapter 3. And we'll probably have multiple parts with this session because there's just so many beautiful things that's shared. And we definitely want to give you value. So, of course, anytime something really speaks to you and we share a beautiful story or a great joke, or you just really want to change things in your life and improve things in your life, reach out to any one of us. We're here to help and help apply this material. So thank you for everybody that's watching live. Thank you for everyone that's engaging as well. Feel free to drop comments live throughout. And, don't be a stranger. We love to meet new people and talk to you about this material. So I'm sure we're going to share some amazing things. Right, folks?
Yeah.
All right. My name is Jamel Matias. I'm a certified mindset success coach / business consultant. My purpose is to reveal the hidden potential that's already within you and guide you to your truest desires. So I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, individuals, just achieve higher milestones. I'm founder of Believe in the Unseen Consultant, and it's all about believing in that goal, believing in that dream, and really taking action toward it as well. Inspired action. And I'm sure we'll kind of express that as well a little later. So I'm in the Maryland area. I was shoveling a lot of ice. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to snow and ice. And it's like winter wonderland out here. So I'll pass it to my amazing colleague, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jamel, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're watching from or whatever time. My name is Paul Wooters. I'm in the Burlington, Ontario area. I'm also a success mindset coach, Proctor Gallagher consultant, and I'm also as known as the architect of mindset mastery at the World Life Education Center and high school. And I help people unlock their true potential. I help people design and create the lives that they truly want, to help them get unstuck, and people from all walks of life, from students, athletes, to business owners, entrepreneurs, as I said, individuals from all walks of life. And as I like to say, I help people live to their greatest possibilities. I'm going to pass this on over to my friend and colleague, Lou.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jamel. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. And if you're catching the replay, thank you for being here. So, my name is Lou Perica, and I am a mindset mentor. And there's something that I've noticed after years of conversations with my women friends and other women is that many feel this quiet pull towards something more. And sometimes they feel a little guilty. Sometimes they feel like there's something a little off in their life. Um, and at the same time, the self image and how they've known themselves to be all this time and what they're living from really no longer fits. Even when life can look wonderful on the outside, they're carrying this disconnect within them. And that sometimes can feel exhausting. So I lead conversations about letting go of that outdated self image and getting very clear on who you are now and what truly matters to you and how you want to move forward. So that's the space that I love to explore in conversations, just like the ones we have here on Coach's Corner. And today, I'm excited about this particular chapter about prayer because if you're anything like me, I thought prayer was really for asking, whether it was asking for good health, asking for something for a loved one, or perhaps, like when I was younger, you'd ask for a bicycle. But Neville introduces a new perspective about prayer, and that's what we'll be delving into today. So I'm looking forward to having this discussion with my colleagues, and chime in. We love to hear from you. We love comments and any questions that you may have that come up during this particular conversation. Okay, Jamel.
All right. Let's dive right in. I get so excited talking right. I get so excited talking about this beautiful material. And let this material not just be knowledge, let it be something that you apply to your life because it's your future, right? And why not create the future that you want? And Neville's giving some beautiful processes and techniques in this book. The last session we went in depth about sleep, how we have, I think it's 1/3 of our life we're sleeping. So imagine if you're utilizing that to create, whatever experience that you want. So when you go to bed tonight, watch the other sessions because we went in depth about the power of that. And there's something to kind of segue into that as well. Just to dive right in here, Neville says, and shout out to everybody on YouTube. I see a lot of activity here on YouTube. So hello, everybody. We appreciate you for tuning in. And hopefully this is helping as well. So Neville says here, you cannot fail unless you fail to convince yourself of the reality of your wish. I had to kind of pull that one out there because it's interesting. He used the word fail there. So he's saying basically failing is not creating what you want or what you desire or the convincing of oneself. So it was so huge for him to kind of say that there because it's very potent and strong. He's saying like, look, if the only reason why this so-called manifestation isn't working is because you didn't convince yourself of the reality of the wish fulfilled. And guess what the title of the book is? Feeling is the secret. You have to feel it. And I was on a call talking to, some individuals, and it's interesting. We allow the outside world to shape our thinking. Most people, because we're conditioned to do that. So whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, you're used to your environment shaping what you think and what you believe. But now it's kind of like a reverse, convincing yourself of the reality. How do you convince yourself of something that physically isn't here? Right? And he's giving you some beautiful strategies and techniques here. And to do that, you have to use, obviously, your imagination, which is one of your intellectual faculties. And it's a mental muscle that you can develop over and over and make it stronger and more defined. Just think about it, right? When you work on a muscle, the fibers get bigger and stronger and whatnot, but the imagination, it becomes highly developed. So, and he says, just kind of piggybacking off of the previous session here, he says, the waking 2/3 of your life on earth ever corroborates or bears witness to your subconscious impressions. Listen to that. So when you're awake, you're seeing what your subconscious received or believed, right? So it's outpictured of what you have internal. Remember, the outside is a reflection of the inside. So he goes on to say the actions and events of the day are effects. They are not causes. So I love this because he's saying, look, we are the cause of all of this. Whether you know this or not, whether you're creating unconsciously or consciously, we're creating all of it in our sleep, in our waking day, and we are the source of it. And sometimes it's hard for people to kind of receive because we're like, no, I can't be responsible for that. That bad thing that happened to me. No way. Things just happen. right? Responsibility is the key to freedom. You have to take responsibility, and it allows you to grow and express yourself at a high degree. And that's just, a good segue into prayer, because he was saying a couple things that show you how important it is to understand this.
Give yourself an applause.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
Thank
Paul, did you want to hop on or?
Go ahead, Lou. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So I have here, so thank you, Jamel. That was great how you know, went over what Neville has been talking about before we jump into prayer. So what I also loved about studying Neville, so it's not just this book, but some of his other books, that he brought to my awareness things that I never really thought about, never gave the time of day about. So, like sleep, the power of sleep, I thought, just like the majority of people, was just to recharge my batteries, rest my body, let my body rebuild. That's really all I thought about. Dreams, I thought they were just fluky things. But why do we have dreams? Why does every human have to sleep? Like, why, right? And he also mentioned in one of his books about sin. I always thought sin was something bad that I've done, right? Or we've done. But sin actually means missing the mark. So just like you were mentioning, Jamel, about failing, we're not failing, we're missing the mark. And that's what sin is about. So now we're talking about prayer. And what I love about what I learned from Neville, because I thought prayer was for asking. And I thought sometimes, depending on what I was asking for, um, the state that I had to be in. So sometimes, let's say it was for a loved one who may be sick, I would go into this almost begging state. Please, 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 right? Or if I wanted something, I'd kind of go into this wishful prayer state. Oh, I hope, oh, please let this good thing happen, right? So I didn't realize that it's not about asking, but it's about aligning. It's not pleading, it's not convincing, and it's not hoping, but it's assuming the state of what is desired, because we're not praying to get, but we're praying to become receptive for answers, receptive for new ideas, um, receptive for new thinking. And this is what I've realized when I imagine myself, let's say I'm going on a vacation and I don't know what the weather's going to be, but I visualize myself having a wonderful time in a sunny day. Everything's going well. Will it be? Maybe, maybe not. But I am going to assume and get into that relaxed state of enjoying my vacation or enjoy whatever it may be. If it is a goal that I want to achieve, that state of being, because you must be first before you can take action, because the body is just the body. It is magnificent as it is. Internally it's still operating, it's still, your heart's still beating, you're breathing, the digestive system is working. But until it has some sort of um, path to follow, a beingness, a self-image, an identity, it really doesn't do much of anything. You have to be that person, make that decision. So this is what prayer is about. It's getting into that receptive state. And this is why he talks about when you're falling to sleep, you go into that theta brainwave, right? You're not asleep, but your conscious mind is calming down. It's not racing thinking. And this is where we start to receive some information and new ideas and new visions. Paul?
Wow, there's so much there. What Jamel said, and to underscore the things that Lou just said. Yeah, I agree. So Neville Goddard is reframing what prayer is here entirely. Like Lou said, and Jamel, it was for asking for something and asking for a different circumstance or praying for this to come about. But Neville is moving away from the asking part and the pleading and the hoping, and he redefines it as an act of assumption. And I know that Jamel likes to say this all the time, believe in the unseen. For Neville, prayer is not something that you're saying. It's a state that you are in, or it's a state that you go into. So it's the prayer is like the art of feeling something to be true before you see the evidence. So lack of evidence isn't evidence of lack. And so Neville is saying here that effective prayer it isn't verbal repetition. It's not just words over and over and over again, or it's not begging. A lot of people, pray when things are really tough and they're really like, okay, now's the time. When things are going along smoothly, they don't pray. But when things are like really tough, oh yeah, I got to pray for something to happen. I need a different circumstance. It's directed at something outside of ourselves, but that's not. Prayer isn't directed to something outside ourselves. Instead, prayer is a deliberate assumption of the feeling of what you want, that it's already there. It's already fulfilled. So it's the feeling that it's already fulfilled. And it's very similar to when Bob Proctor taught us, about affirmations. You're saying your affirmations as if you already have those things, not wanting them, because that indicates lack. When you're wanting something, that means you don't have it. But what you want does exist for you. So you have to be in the feeling of being that person or having that thing already. And I think that's what Neville is really trying to emphasize here or underscore.
Wow, so good. This is going to be a really deep conversation. This is going to be so deep, because I'm thinking right now how so many people, Neville kind of touches on, prayer. When you hear the word prayer, you think of religion, right? And it's a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. There's so many beliefs, right? Different versions of everything, right? But Neville's kind of talking about prayer. This is something you have to kind of be open to, right? Because we have conditioning where when we pray, we're asking for something, right? Just like what Lou and Paul just mentioned, right? And when you ask, you're choosing a concept of yourself of not having the thing, right? And Neville goes in great detail in a lot of his content that we're always choosing who we are. And there's different versions of us. There's infinite versions, right? So when you pray, you are actually, that's why Bob says, and change your paradigm, change your life. He says you need to pray without ceasing. And what that is, you are being in every moment. And it's something like backwards of what we've been taught or learned, right? We're kind of like, okay, if I'm a good person and I'm positive, and then I pray at night asking for these things, they will come, right? That's a lot of people. Now, what Neville's talking about here is being basically grateful in advance. You're bringing your future to the present. And he goes in so much detail about how time is an illusion. And we have these gifts if we perceived it differently. So prayer, it's so powerful, because I had to kind of like rethink things, because I was like, what? So I get to be this without it here, so, and I always like that because it reminds me of what Rhonda Burns said. She said, a lot of us think we need to do something. If we do this, right, then I can have that. And then I can be that, right? So to do, have, be. But guess what? Neville is shifting it. Be, if I become, then I can, then I do, and then I have. So you're being first, think from the end, right? Think from the end. And that's what that means. So, and not only think, feel from the end. That's the big one, right? How in the world can I feel as though I accomplished whatever or have whatever? And this is where you get emotionally involved with it. You impress your subconscious mind. And he says here, the actions of man are determined by his subconscious impressions. Here we go. This is the image of your mind. Conscious and subconscious. So listen to that. The actions of man. So the body is an instrument of the mind. So it'll start sending off vibrations. All of us send vibrate. Look at Paul, look at Lou, right? We send vibration off. So the universe picks up on that. The only way you're sending a vibration that's attracting more of who you're being is what's impressed here. What are you feeling? That's why he's saying feeling is the secret. He has it on the cover of the book. He's telling you, right? That's the power of it. He's screaming it, right? So if there's nothing that you get that part. Feeling is the secret. So he says the illusion of free will. Now he goes even deeper here. The illusion of free will, right? His belief in freedom of action is but ignorance of the cause which make him act. He thinks himself free because he has forgotten the link between himself and the event. Whoa. I forgot I put that down as a note. That was so big. So what he's talking about is you're actually creating your future through your subconscious. And the action is expressed naturally, whatever's here. And we have an illusion as if we, he says the illusion of free will. His belief in freedom of action is but ignorance of the cause, which make him act. The cause is what you feel and what you're impressing here. He thinks himself free because he has forgotten the link between himself and the event. So the event, you're linked to all of this, all your results, all your money, right? There's no unlinking that.
It's true.
Right? So all the results outside of you in your life is created by you. And it's a hard concept to understand, right? And to really believe. And we're not saying you have to believe everything we're saying, because everybody's at different levels. And your belief will always shape your reality, right? Isn't that funny? So you can not believe any of this, but you can still create some things in your life, but you can also believe all of it and apply it at a very high high level where you're creating what you want. So that's just a couple things that came to mind there.
I wanted to piggyback on something you were saying about thinking and feeling from the end. And there's a difference between, and I like to think of it as living from the end, right? So not just thinking and feeling, but living. So it includes the acting as well. And the as if is a different state. It's a different feeling than a hope or a wish, because the hope or a wish feeling still has that doubt in it. That, oh, I don't know, but I hope or I wish. But this is what Neville is saying is you're making a statement. You're declaring this is who I am. So when you see yourself in whatever that position, that being is, it just feels different. And to live from there, what would that person be doing? How would they be thinking? Who would they be? What are the conversations they would have? You may not necessarily be able to do all of them, but in your mind, you can. In your mind, that's why the imagination is one of the greatest gifts, because you can go anywhere in your mind. And I also wanted to point out, so the first chapter in the first paragraph in chapter 3, Neville says, prayer, like sleep, is also an entrance into the subconscious. When you pray, enter into your closet, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father which is in secret, and your Father which is in secret shall reward you openly. Now, when Neville talks about going, into the closet, he's talking about that inner space, and he's talking about where it's quiet, where you're undistracted, where it's private. And that, we all have those moments. It could be in the car, it could be while you're showering, before you fall off to sleep. And you drop that mask. I remember I was speaking to someone, and she told me she had been doing meditating and maybe visualization also. She would go in a closet. She actually went into a closet. And I thought, I'm going to try that. And I just remembered that as I was reading that chapter the other day. I was like, I'm going to try that, because think about it. It may sound strange, but when you go into that closet, it's just you. And you get to really, and that's what Neville is talking about. When you pray, enter into your closet, that private space. And when you have shut your door, meaning your outer world, pray to your Father, which is in secret, and your Father, which is in secret, shall reward you openly. So you are creating the cause, and the Father rewarding you openly is the effect. So that's something I'm going to give it a try. I'll let you know how it goes, and if I can find a closet big enough to fit me. But I do. When she told me that, I thought about it. And I said, I bet you that is very, very powerful, because you really are shutting out your outer world, right? And so I'm gonna challenge. Well, I'm going to invite myself to do that. I'm going to actually try to do that, and I will report back to you what has come up when I try that. So that's what I wanted to share, Paul.
I'm very interested to hear that, Lou. That's a really interesting thing, and I'm sure you
Yes,
have.
when you think about it, right?
That's why they built walk-in closets, maybe. So I jest, of course, but no, that's so true, right? What Lou is saying, you're going into a place and you're just locking everything else out, and you're just being within yourself. It's so good. I want to go sort of backtrack a bit on something that Jamel said, and that is when Neville is talking about prayer in this chapter here, he's not talking about religion. And that's usually where my mind would go to first. When people talk about praying or prayers, okay, so there's different religions, there's different beliefs, but everyone has a sense of prayer. They're praying to something. And so Neville is making a really clear distinction. He said, the prayer, you're not persuading some higher power. You're aligning your inner self or your inner state with the thing that you desire. So prayer doesn't change circumstances. It's changing you, not the circumstances directly. The circumstances change because you have changed. So the circumstances are going to change around me because I change. Then the circumstances will change. Too often people are thinking, when this changes, when that changes, when those outer circumstances changes, and I pray they do. Well, you have to pray, you're the one that has to change. I'm the one that has to change. And then I will see my circumstances change on the outside. So I guess in modern terms, prayer is this adoption of this new, what we're talking about is adopting a new inner state of ourselves, seeing ourselves as being our best version or a different state before the external evidence comes out and we see that. So it's not asking, it's not hoping, it's accepting an idea as being already true, internally. It's not about prayer isn't about changing the circumstances. It's actually about changing our identity. It's about changing it. Prayer is about changing my identity. And when I consistently or constantly feel that something is true, calm and capable and valued, and then that feeling becomes a part of my self-image. And then once it becomes my or a part of my self-image and a part of my identity, therefore, then my behavior is going to adjust automatically. Just like when Jamel was holding up that stick man, the body is an instrument of the mind, and so my choices will align, more naturally, and then the results will follow without force. So such a great point, and it's not, as he said, it was not about religion, but it's just about having a new state, aligning ourselves with a new state of being first, being the person that we want to be, being in that state, rather than hoping for or wanting or changing or pleading for some circumstances to change. So we have to change, then you'll see the circumstances change. Jamel.
Wow. I said this is going to be amazing. Thank you for all our viewers. Thank you for all the comments and those tapping in here, because this is magic. We're talking about the magic that you have. And yeah, this is so good. It's interesting when you think about how Neville uses religion in his work. He's using it to kind of amplify it, right? And also for you to see it a little differently. He's using it to support what he's sharing, right? So it's not Neville's religion, right? He's using religion in a way to help you understand your true gifts and your abilities to create things. And I just really love his material. He says, if in the past he unwisely impressed himself, wow, then let him begin to change his thought and feeling. For only as he does, so will he change his world. And that's exactly what Paul's talking about. If he unwisely impressed himself, what does that mean? That's like you not even being aware of your own thoughts, just having mental activity, just a bunch of noise. Scroll through different things in social media. What's interesting about social media, it wants you to stay there, but it'll show you just these big things that kind of capture your attention. And then here goes something totally left and then totally right. And all that is going into your consciousness. And if you're not aware of your thought, it goes right into your subconscious. So imagine trying to create the things that you really want, being, right? Having that vibrational state, having that faith, knowing that it's here in one form or the other, and feeling that. And while you're scrolling or binge watching different shows, imagine watching like a violent, action movie or something, right? Or horror flick right before going to sleep. So you're unwisely impressing your subconscious, even allowing negative people to say certain things that are opposite of who you're being and allowing that in, right? So you're unwisely impressing yourself. He says, then let him begin to change his thoughts. See, today, there's nothing better in the present, right? Now you can change your thought. Who do you want to be? And Neville is very strong about being rather than doing. And I see what he's saying, and I respect what he's saying. So begin to change your thought and feeling. Feelings follow thoughts. So that feelings are kind of easy to do. They're just kind of natural. But being aware of your thoughts. I have to catch myself sometimes because I'm human too. And I have previous conditioning. So sometimes you let the outside world, you either react or you respond. Like someone texting you at midnight or something, right? Or somebody, just anything negative, right? You have to use your perception and see the positive side of it. And he says, for only as he done, so will he change his world. So remember, everything is an effect, right? You are the cause. Everything outside of you is an effect. And unwisely, unwisely, what is that? You're creating what you don't want. That's unwise. And then you wonder why, oh, all of this is happening to me. It's actually happening for you. You're creating it. This is why I said you got to take responsibility. It's a hard pill to swallow. So he says, do not waste one moment in regret, right? For to think feelingly of the mistakes of the past is to reinfect yourself.
I love that. Yeah.
Huge, right? So that's also impressing your subconscious, right? But this is people that are stuck in the past. For to think feelingly of the mistakes of the past. So you're reinfecting your subconscious mind with this poison. That's horrible. Well, I mean, we all here had some things in the past that, show up in our minds, but this is being aware of it and letting it go because it doesn't serve you anymore. And I know a lot of people can relate to that, right? Who wants to infect themselves continuously? And this is why mentorship is essential. You don't have to do this alone. We study this, we apply it, and we're here to help. So just wanted to share a few of those points.
Very cool. One thing, so Jamel, what you had mentioned about Neville and religion, what I love is a lot of the passages that he has in his books. I would say, including myself, the majority of people will read it in its exoteric meaning. And what Neville is giving us is the esoteric meaning. So the symbolism, the words, it's not always as it appears what we think it means. And this is what he introduced to me, is how to actually read a statement or a passage and understand the esoteric meaning underneath it. He says here, prayer is not so much what you ask for as how you prepare for its reception. Whatsoever things ye desire, when you pray, believe that you have received them, and ye shall have them. I just keep hearing your voice, Jamel, when I'm reading that. The only condition required is that you believe that your prayers are already realized. In other words, you've accepted that it's done and you let it go. You don't keep asking and asking and asking and asking. You live from the state, it is already done. Amen. So it is. It is done. So this is why also, once you make the decision, I was thinking about this the other day. When making a decision, we can accept or reject ideas up here, right, in the conscious mind. But we have this little thing going on, right? No, 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 no. Who do you think you are? You can't do that, et cetera, et cetera. I've got to unify my mind. Which one is going to be the obedient one? I get to choose because I can choose up here. So I've been doing this the past couple of days, and it's been very interesting. And I've been doing it. So we've had cold weather, snow, right? So we're stuck at home. And what do we tend to do? Eat and watch TV, right? I was like, geez, I don't want to eat a lot, you know? So we were having a snack or something, and I think it was cheese and crackers, and I put out X amount. And I said to myself, I am only going to eat these or whatever, however many there were. That's it. Now I made a decision. So after I ate my whatever cracked cheese and crackers, here comes this voice. Oh, don't you want more? Don't you want more? So I have to unify my mind. I got one thing going on here, and one that the habits are all here, the habits and the fixed beliefs, all of that is down here. My want is up here. I only want to eat 10 crackers, but they're in conflict. I've got split energy. So I've been doing this. I am going to unify my mind to the decision. And I did that like with our dinner. I've always had 2 dishes. I don't know, I just have 2. So last night I had our dinner. I put it in a smaller dish instead of the big dinner plate. I put it in a smaller plate. And I decided I'm only having 1 dish. That was the decision I made in my conscious mind. My habitual mind always has 2. Always. And this, because it's a habit, always wins. Right? So I always go for that second plate. But I made a decision. I am going to unify my mind. There's only going to be 1 voice, only 1. And I stuck to it. And it felt very empowering because I said, I felt like I was taking these 2 energies and putting it together to the desire that I wanted. So I was disciplining my mind to think and act as one. I don't know if I went sideline a little bit, but that is the point of the prayer, is to accept it, make the decision, it is done, and start living from that decision. But it is a decision, and we must, or we get to have the opportunity, and it's an invitation. It's an invitation for us to unify our mind. Is this what you really want? You're saying that up here. This is the goal setter up here. This is the goal achiever. The habits that we go by, on autopilot 95% of our day. So this decision maker must unify and think as one. And I'm going to be mindful of practicing that with each decision I make. I want that decision to be the decision and not for the habitual patterns to start conflicting with it. So it's I've been practicing it. I just started doing it yesterday. And I found it very interesting. I found it very powerful. And I also felt a sense of calmness in me. Instead of having these 2, yeah, I know you only want to eat 1 dish, but you always eat 2 dishes at dinner. You always have seconds. You always have dessert, right? And I don't say, sometimes you might have to take small little incremental steps, like Paul's always talking about, 1 step at a time, because what we need to do is retrain this, because this is all a bunch of recordings. It's not out to get you. Your subconscious mind is not out to get you. It's just recorded. It's recorded patterns and emotions and thoughts and beliefs and habits for decades. So it's just a recording. So we just need to retrain, but this is the part that's going to retrain it. And we need this and this to be unified together to really start being who we decide we are, and we get to make that choice. That's the beauty of life. We get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
We get to choose. You know, when I'm at the gym, and I mentioned this before, you have whatever, 25 TVs, right? You're on the treadmill and you got all these TVs. Each one of those TVs is a reality. And there's unlimited realities. Which one are you tuning into? There's all kinds of realities happening at the same time. Which one are you going to tune into?
Drop. That's
Oh.
the end of the show, everybody.
Is that a mic drop?
Wait a minute. I need to stop eating so much ice cream, Lou.
Make the decision and unify your mind.
Here's something really interesting, okay? Something really interesting that Lou said, right? We get to choose. We get to choose, right? And that's so true. And then go back to something I heard Jamel say, and when he said, you're responsible, and that's might be a difficult pill to swallow.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's a difficult pill to swallow, but really, when you think about it, what a beautiful thing to have in your power. It's up to you. It's a difficult pill to swallow, but hey, hang on a second. This is really a good thing because it's my choice. I get to choose. It's not someone else doing it for me or doing it to me. I get to choose. It's my choice. So it sounds on the surface like it's a difficult pill to swallow, but really, it's a real blessing because the choice is ours. The choice is always yours, right? So I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about the feeling and why the feeling really matters, because the subconscious mind, as Lou was saying, it doesn't respond to arguments or logic. It responds to emotional agreement. Emotional agreement. That emotional agreement is what Neville is talking about, what he calls feeling. That emotional agreement is feeling. So prayer isn't a request, like it's this verbal request. It's the moment that our mind is saying, this is who I am. This is who I am. But when people try to change just through willpower, then, like Lou says, you got that voice. Your self-image is trying to resist that. And your behavior is inconsistent. You want this new behavior, but you have that voice and it's conflicting. And so that old behavior comes into play, old patterns return. And so, but Neville is describing prayer. You avoid it by removing effort, right? You just create the inner agreement. Mm-hmm. You allow the change to feel normal. So, again, it's not, he's saying it's not about religion. Prayer is not about religion. It's just this practice, as Lou was saying, as Jamel was saying, it's a practice of assuming this new identity internally. Assume that new identity internally until the behavior and the results align naturally, right? So they're just going to align naturally.
Yeah, that's so good, Paul. Both of you. When we talk about this, it's like, I don't know, we're channeling something very special, and I love to see how people receive this. And I was just talking to someone about this, how the outside and the inside are always connected, right? And emotion is key, the feeling, right? So he says, turn from appearances and assume the feeling that would be yours were you already the one you wish to be. That was a very key thing. He says it multiple times throughout all his material. So remember, the conscious mind can basically reject, or I like to say let go of thoughts. So anything negative that doesn't serve you, you can let it go. You want to turn from the appearance and assume the feeling. Now, remember everything in your life. I love this. We are the sum total of our thoughts. So whatever you were thinking last year or the year before that, all those thoughts are creating who you are now, and also everything in your so-called reality, in your physical state. So guess what you'll continue to do in your life? You'll forever create your life based on your thoughts, whether good or bad or indifferent, right? So what you're feeling, first it's thinking, because you have to think of that version of you, right? This is really good. Please write this down, take notes, let this sink in, because if you don't have a vision of who you want to become, or whatever you want to have or whatever, who's that version of you with that wish fulfilled? So get very clear on what it is that you want. This is why our mentor Bob Proctor is like, what do you want? What do you really want? And now you have direction, right? Only 3%, 3 out of 100 people really know what they're creating in their life. That's amazing. It's kind of sad, but really think about that. Think about that. So when you have focus on what you're creating, what you want, now you know who you need to become. So you're that person with that, I don't know, maybe you want a really nice luxury car, right? You have a beautiful Mercedes in your driveway. It's clean, it drives nice, great interior. Maybe that's something you want. How would that feel? Right? Maybe, Neville even talks about people creating, using this method for, anything. I remember this lady, she was having trouble having children. And imagine having the feeling of having a child that you desire. So the feeling comes first. And prayer is the sustained feeling of that. And the outside will always catch up to what you're feeling, always. And this is why it's so important to understand yourself, because you're creating a lot of things you don't want. And I love what he says about prayer here. He says, and Lou, I think you mentioned this earlier, but repetition, right? Prayer is an illusion of sleep. Really think about that. Prayer is an illusion of sleep, which diminishes the impression of the outer world. So it's like a stage before sleep, right? This is kind of like where you're getting into that spiritual element, and you're resting the conscious, like all your sensories, right? So, and renders the mind more receptive to suggestion from within. So when you're in this state of prayer, you're shutting out all these things, all this noise. And now you're more receptive to feel. You're more receptive to see. You're more receptive to create. And he says the mind in prayer is in a state of relaxation and receptivity, akin to the feeling attained just before dropping off to sleep. It's so beautiful. So you're in a state of relaxation. I like my massages. So I got my massage. I'm in a totally relaxed state. Guess what I'm doing? I'm feeling the wish fulfilled. Because I know anytime your mind is rested, your body's rested, it's a great moment to impress your subconscious with what it is that you desire. And dropping right off before the sleep, it's interesting because he mentioned sleep again. So they're kind of connected, so powerful.
I wanted to add, I had mentioned before that I get excited when I go to bed, right? Well, one of the things, because I too, my mind will race at times depending on what's going on in the world, in my life. It does happen. But I also know that I have the ability to say cancel or shift the way I think. So what I bought this little rock And you see them in gift shops, usually at the counter when you're checking out. It's a smooth rock, and they might say love, faith, gratitude, whatnot. And I have one that says trust. So when I go to bed, it's right on my nightstand. I go over my day. Um, and I mentioned before, sometimes, the whole day may not be fantastic. There may be moments, but I do say moments, not my whole day is destroyed, but there could be moments that are not so terrific. But Neville also reminds us um, we can make revisions. We can make revisions. But I do like to go to sleep, I rub this rock that says trust on it. Trust, trust, trust. And I just think about how grateful I am for life, how grateful the day was, what I experienced, what I got to experience, the conversations I was able to have, the people I met, the feelings that I felt, the ideas that I received. And I rub that rock and I just trust the process. I trust the process because I know within me that what we share here, it may be new to people. It was new to me. This may be new information. You'll be hearing different perspectives, and it was all new to me. And I had a challenging time accepting it at the beginning. But what I found is because I was in an environment that everyone was, when I say the environment, it was with the other consultants that were all learning and speaking this new language, so to speak. It was a lot easier for me to consider it and to embody it. But if I was just tuning in once a week, whatever, listening to it, oh, it sounds good, but once I grab this information and I have no one to speak to or speak with about and throw ideas back and forth, I can be easily swayed back into my so-called old conditioned thinking. So what we're sharing here may be new, it may be different perspectives for you, but it's for you to consider. You can accept or reject it because that's your creative ability. You get to do that. But what we're asking you is just to consider it. And once you do start to embody this material, this information, and what I believe is truth, it will become so very obvious to you that what we've been sharing every week on Coach's Corner really is truth. So I just wanted to leave that with our viewers. Paul?
Thank you, Lou. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just going to add here before wrapping up that, it's feeling is the act of prayer. And as Neville said here, he's emphasizing that it's not the words. Words are secondary, but it's feeling is primary. So your subconscious mind, it's only going to respond when the idea is felt as real. And prayer is going to work when that feeling matches, that desire fulfilled that you have. And, the state it feels natural and it's calm and it's accepting, as Lou is describing, just allowing it to be. There's no strain or emotional intensity. Prayer isn't effort, it's acceptance, it's accepting. And why, and Jamel mentioned this before, like why do some people fail in their prayers? And Neville's explaining that prayers fail. It isn't because they aren't heard or God's not listening or something like that, but it's because they're spoken without feeling. Like, remember Bob saying, some people pray, it's just not a long list of meaningless words. So when it's done without feeling, they're contradicted by your inner state, right? They, rather than ending in acceptance, you're worried and you're fearful. So your prayers, you've said your prayer, but you end your prayers in doubt. So if you're praying and you continue to feel worried, or you continue to feel anxious, so I'm praying for this to happen, I'm praying for that to happen, but I'm really worried about it, or you feel uncertain, you're anxious, then your subconscious is accepting the worry. It's not accepting the words. You know, it's like saying, I don't want this to happen, but your subconscious is accepting what it is that because that's the thing that you're focusing on. And so it's about alignment. It's not about persuasion. It's not about persuading someone or a higher being. It's about being. Jamel.
This was such a great session, everybody. This is so good. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Paul. This was so good. As you were explaining that, Paul, it reminds me, you definitely can't force this. You can't force creation. It's effortless. And that's something I had to really understand. You can't, and even like checking for, is it working? Right? Did I, you have to just let it go, and letting it go is faith, right? And it's awareness, knowing that it'll always work for you. And something else came to mind as well. This method and what Neville teaches, it's related to everything Bob talks about, the secret, everything, right? So it doesn't care about your past, right? This creation process. It doesn't care about, where you came from, where you live, I don't know, nationality, sexual preference. It doesn't matter. We're the ones that think that those things tie to our future. You have this gift, and it's whether you're using it consciously, with awareness, or you'll continue to create without awareness and create what you don't want rather than what you do want. And we've been blessed with this material, to apply to our lives and also to help people with it as well. And he says, prayer is not so much what you ask for as how you prepare for its reception. So you're just preparing yourself to receive. Really think about that. So, and lastly, here to wrap up, the only condition required is that you believe that your prayers are already realized. So there's a process, but you have to choose. Like Lou mentioned, we always have a choice. And he says your prayer must be answered if you assume the feeling that would be yours were you already in possession of your objective. So whatever it is you want, you'll be happy or proud, grateful. Become that state. And it's interesting. It's really and then you're attracting it, right? It's different ways to explain it. So, and speaking of explaining, if this resonated with you, you got inspired or motivated or want to learn more, we're here to help. Reach out to us. Our call links are, probably in the description or the comments. Drop some comments. Let us know your thoughts about Neville and this beautiful material. Even if you have some questions, right? Because this is a very dense material, but you don't have to understand all of it. That's why we're here. And you should feel what we're saying here if you don't understand it consciously as well, because this is just, it's here and it's working now. It doesn't work tomorrow. It works always. And we're a part of it. Should understand it, right? So thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.